Hello, everybody. Welcome. What an awesome intro. So this is the board we're going to be working on tonight. We got oranges, golds, a touch of red. So, of course, we're going to clean it up. This is a 12 by 32-inch board. I'm wiping it down with wax and grease remover, any contaminants. And then, of course, you know me. We always do a border with the 1/4 inch, about a 1/4 of an inch away. And of course, here I am cutting with the razor blade, the borders. You know me, we always want to pre-tape those borders with 3/4 inch. That way, any tape that's going to overpass these borders, we don't have to cut with the razor blade. You got to think smart, people. Think smart. All of these products you can get at the website, which the link is in this video. So now if we have our border, this is our canvas. So on this one, I am going to do quite a bit of measurements. That's not usually me. You got to think this panel is part of the hood series. So you got to think, I know this is a 12 by 32-inch board, but you got to visualize this as a hood, a trunk, or a roof on a car. So I'm marking up some key points. Now you got to think where this V ends up at the point. That would be the front of the hood, which would be where the Cadillac emblem would be. I'm just giving you like a visual. And then you got to think it's a mini version of what you could create on a hood. And of course, here we are with the 3 shade. So I went in with 1/2 inch masking tape. Came in with 1/2 inch green 3M masking tape. Cut in these lines. See all those other lines I'm able to just overlap past that orange 1/4 inch border. Here's my signature. We always come in overlapping a millimeter over the tape you're taping over. And of course this is with 1/4 inch J tape. Then we're just building on each line. Coming in about a little over a 1/4 of an inch with some 1/8 inch. To accent it, cutting with the razor blade. You see how shaky I am? If I can do it, you can do it. So now I'm coming in with some 1/16 inch vinyl J tape, just for a little bit of detail. This is going to be a complete hood, super detailed, real tasteful. Now I'm coming in with some 2-inch low tack. This is just for measurement purpose. You could do it just by eye, but this is an example of doing it as perfect as you can get it. Same thing. Now I'm going to mark. Same thing. I'm coming in over here. This will be where we'll lift it up. We'll do some turns. So now I'm going to tear that. I'm going to set it to the side. Same thing. Tear that. Just set it to the side. It's all about smart taping. Think about it. So I'm peeling that back where I'm going to make that turn. Put a little piece of tape to hold it down. You'll kind of see where I'm going with this. Kind of folding to there. This will be able to help me to make these turns. We're not going to go right along it, but about a 1/4 of an inch away from it. Then I'm going to turn that in, leaving about a 1/2 an inch gap. For a reason. Once you start to get your own style going and things that you do on a regular basis, then it's just a matter of you turning the tape different, doing different things with it. But your style is always going to be your style, like your gaps, your spaces, all of those things. So now I'm coming in with 1/8 inch J tape, masking tape. Same thing here. Instead of just winging it, which I hate to say, well, I don't hate to say, 98% of what you ever seen back in the day, Lowrider magazine, that was all by eye. No measurements, except for maybe the middle of the roof, a few measurements. The rest was by eye, just going back and forth. Is there some things that probably were off a little bit? Of course. It's got to have that human aspect. But this is more getting it, trying to be a little bit more precise with it. So I'm laying that down. Old school. Now, this is where we're utilizing, instead of just filling in we're going to utilize this taping right here for extra detail when we're spraying. So as you can see, I'm doing half inch, half inch, half inch. We'll be shading those open areas right there once we do fill it in. And of course, right after this, I'm going to start filling it in. You see how shaky I am. If I can do it, you can do it. Now I'm going to mask up, fill in the rest of that spot. And you'll see at the end, make a note in your head, and I'll explain it when we're spraying it as well. So now I'm running off that line. Same thing. We're able to build off to the left, to the right, mirror image. Coming in with 1/4 inch 3M green masking tape. I'm kind of running through the middle. Going to leave the same amount of space to the left and to the right through this pattern. And that'll be a over and under when it's all said and done. We'll be shading black, making it look like it's swooping through. Here I'm coming in with 1/8 inch green 3M. Here we go again with some 1/16 inch vinyl J tape. Just to add that little bit of detail. Like I say, we got 1 millimeter, we got 1/16 inch, we got 2 millimeter at the shop that you're able to purchase to use for the smaller tapes. Each roll comes with 2 rolls in it. Here I'm going back to the middle. Like I say, one of my things you guys always will recognize. I try to go from an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch. Back in the day, we literally used a lot of 1/8 inch, barely any 1/4. This would be late 80s, 90s with 3/4 inch. Then started incorporating both, and then added half inch to it, 1/16 inch to it, just for more detail. And of course, here's my signature 3 shade. And just, it ends up beautiful with all of these sharp points, with all the different shades you're going to see. It just really gives you a beautiful array of colors. The color breakup is just unmatchable when you're doing these shades. From the 3, 6, 9 back to that 3 coats, 6 coats, 9 coats, from dark to lighter to lighter. So here I'm half inch to the left or right. Same thing for the detail. To me, mandatory half inch tape has got to be a priority in your library. A lot of people, it's underrated to a lot of people. They stick with 16, and they stick with 1/8 and 1/4 and 3/4. Huge. I switched over from 3/4 inch fades to half inch. I can't tell you how many years ago. Just had to start shrinking the patterns. And look, coming in with that 3/4 inch just for a measurement. Used it just to measure. So we're keeping it as precise as we can from left to right. You got to think, this is back hood series. Pretend like this is a hood on a Monte Carlo, a Cadillac, a Cutlass, or whatever you're working on. Impala. This is something you can enlarge and would make a beautiful hood design, trunk design, roof design. Here I'm making a couple measurements, going 3 inches to the left, to the right. Gonna bend it there. Gonna do some little mini S patterns. Old school. Always something you should add to your library as well. Like I say, if you do want to see the whole complete video, this is a blessing, a shortened video to where it's not as long. You don't got to sit through 4 hours of taping. So here I'm just using this for a spacer. So we're going to duplicate that design. So basically that ends up where we're doing the reverse. See, I kind of left a little bit over so I could turn that way. That way the bottom one turns up, the top one turns down. Simple trick, technique. Like I say, this is just old school S pattern style. Been utilized for years. that is mandatory for a lowrider or just any pattern toolbox trick. So same thing, like you see, I tore that when I tilted it back, wanted a little extra. Cutting these, you don't want to dig too deep with the razor blade. I'm not an X-Acto guy. I've used razor blades my whole life. No X-Actos. Everybody just does their own thing. To each their own. So same thing here. I'm just literally using this for space. To kind of make a smaller S pattern in the middle. Could have used a different size tape to do that spacing. That's just on the fly. So same thing, kind of got a bigger one, smaller one in the middle. And you can also flip those right there to mini ribbons as well. Just swinging them. But we're going to stick with this pattern style. So here I am running the last line. You see I leave a little extra tape because I know I'm going to swing that down. Same thing, just enough to swing down. I'm going to peel it back, put a spacer. To keep kind of that precise measurement. Except for I forgot to tear that one, got to peel it back. Got to retape that because I kind of snagged it. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Like I say, we always appreciate you guys tuning in with us. Hope this is able to help you with whatever you're working on, give you some inspiration. Always want to encourage everybody. So here I am, laying that last line. We'll be slicing it and dicing it. You could have just imagined that. You got to think, like I tell you, towards the bottom where that razor blade is, that would be where the Cadillac emblem would go. You got to think about what I'm taping now on a Cadillac, say a 77, let's say even like a Fleetwood like mine, a Monte Carlo. You got to think that would be the swoop in the actual shape of the hood. So now I'm masking up this pattern because I'm going to keep everything darker around it, and then I'll untape those, and it'll be probably three or so shades lighter. It's really just thinking it all out ahead of time to where you don't got to be doing a bunch of crazy masking, multi-masking. And of course that doesn't work with everything, but with this puzzle taping, I try to really pre-think everything out to where it's going to tape up fully. You got to think, on almost every pattern job I do, it's 90% taping, 10% spraying. So if I tape on something for a car for, let's just go at 2 months, I'm going to spend a week spraying all the patterns. Some people will spray, tape, untape, spray more, tape more. And I've done that too on several jobs, but this is usually my signature thing that I do. I try to think it out to where we tape, we have it pre-thought out, and we're able to spray, untape, untape, spray, untape, untape, spray. To where in the last piece of tape off, you're finished unless you wanted to add something to it. Now I'm coming in with 1/4 inch, coming in with the 1/16 inch J tape right through the middle. The reason I use the 2 different colors of tape, or 3 even, to just make it look cool during the process. It gives you kind of inspiration. To where if all of that was green or tan, it would just be boring, and I don't know how to put it. Like even every car I ever did, it was mandatory that somebody brought it with Dayton's. Had to have 13s with the Dayton's with the white wall for me to do patterns on it, because If you're patterning something with the stock rims, they look busted. It's really hard for you to get motivated. Really think about that. It helps when something has rims to kind of bring that motivation. It brings the patterns out. I can't tell you guys how much it helps. 1,000%. When you have rims on it, it's just those patterns start to come to life. If you're taping on something with stocks, man, I hate to say it looks busted half the time. When you're doing something with rims, you're able to just keep going. It's just like, wow, that's what I was thinking out. That's how I want it to look. And of course, now you see, back to that, my signature 3 lines that I always like to do just for extra detail. Of course, these are 16th inch. Now I'm coming in, actually did a 3/4 inch fade. Don't do that. I do not do those that often. Now I'm coming in with 1/2 inch. So you got to think, and of course this will be a shade, but 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch on both sides. Back to just get that little spectrum of darker to lighter with sharp edges. Just, I can't tell you how amazing it looks when it's all said and done. And just adds to the detail. You got to think, you got the heart of the patterns. You got your little details that really make up just the overall, the way it looks. You got to think your main thing is color usage, the color combos. So many things that people don't realize why things look so good or why they're lacking. So of course, I'm kind of flipping it here. Work comfortable. Like I say, if you got to move it, move it. You got to think on a hood, a trunk, or a roof. You absolutely cannot move it. You got to go up a ladder, back down a ladder, back to the other side. Things like this, skateboards, boards, man, we're comfortable. Like, you got to think I'm standing up doing this. Personally, I would have it on something where I could be comfortable, where I can move the board around to tape whatever flow I'm taping to make it easier. You got to work smart instead of making more work for yourself. And of course, you see I did the nice little turn. Where these tan J-tape 1/8 inch would be, you got to think that's where the headlights would be, towards the front. And of course, the header of the car, if it is, let's say a Monte Carlo, a Cutlass. But if you could visualize, this is the hood series. This is something you could do on a roof, a trunk, or a hood. Just expand it out longer. And you talk about an amazing, amazing hood, trunk, or roof. As you see, of course, I'm moving it to work comfortable. Here I'm wrapping the 1/2 inch around that design. I do not care about those wrinkles on the inside because they are not going to show. So a lot of people ask, how do you get it from not wrinkling? Well, you got to do the design to where you know you're doing the shade on the outside where the sharp edge is, not the wrinkles. Now, if I was to put that green 1/2 inch inside that line, then the sharp edge would be somewhere where it didn't even matter because it's up against the tan 1/8 inch. So you got to think it out, think smart, and it's just trial and error, like I say. So here I'm masking up. We want this thing to be totally ready to spray when it's all said and done. We're getting there. Now it's just adding detail. Like I say, none of this was drawn out. I did a little sketch last minute. If you only knew what happens for the last 30 minutes of trying to get ready on a Thursday night live. It is chaotic sometimes because it's not like I've drawn it out and it's ready to go. And here you can see I'm using the 1/2 inch to do perfect spacing. I'll move that. I'll do the next line. Then I'll move it over. Those are simple tricks just for detail. You know me, I don't like to leave empty space, and it's just running these 3 1/2 inch lines is just so much more detail it adds to what you're working on. And you'll see, of course, as we start to spray. Of course, here we are adding in a little bit more detail in the middle. Back to that, coming in. I'm just doing that for measurement purposes. I'll be tearing off these 3/4 inch. So keep a nice little space. There we are, taking it out. Back to that. Some more shades. Slicing it. Back to that. I'm shaky. If I can do it, you can do it. So there we go. Now I'm going to come in. I'm going to tape some of these spots. This is taping up those 3/16 inch. There's a reason for it. So really at this point you got to think, okay, what do I want? What colors are going to go? And of course now this is all ready for the white. You guys know why I always shoot white. I specifically want to come in, get this super white. Just specifically those 2 lines. So I'm going in with 2 inch. Shooting white. The white drowns out the flake. And then when you shoot candy over it, it looks like a solid color. And it just pops. We're talking when you see it in the sun, different lighting. Like I said, it's hard to really see the detail that all of this brings by spending this extra time by shooting this white and doing all these extra things unless you really see it in person. So like I say, I'm specifically going in with white, certain areas. And you can go as much white as you want to really kill the flake, or you can just slightly kill it to like a muddy flake is kind of shining through, and it still gives you a 3D effect. So here I am, tacking it real quick. Here we go. We're starting with some color. It's coming in with a little bit of red. So almost all these open areas. Coming in with a little bit of orange on the outer. Got this tangerine orange. You can get all this from the website, Ready to Sprays, Intercoat Mix, Urethane Mix, Concentrates. Coming back with orange over the red. It's not really going to look orange when it's all said and red. It's not going to look red when it's all said and done. It's really just to kind of give a fire orange. So it's not just straight tangerine orange. There's a reason behind it all. And like I say, a lot of this you can sit there and wing it. You know, if you don't like something, you can add a little bit more color. You know, a lot of that, like I always tell you guys. And here I am. I'm untaping all of the very first shades of my 3 shade, 3 fade. And of course, all of these are going to end up 3 shades. So untaping for the next step. Coming in. A little bit of orange. It's going to be darkening up where I already shot orange. Darkening up even more where those reds are. Coming in. It's always that 3, 6, 9, 3 coats, 6 coats. So you do 3 coats, you untape. You do another 3 coats, you untape for the next pattern. Then you untape, you do 3 more to where that one's got 9 coats. You see, I go pretty fast. And of course, you got to think this video is speeded up so it gets right to the point. The real video, like I say, is about almost 4 hours long. It's hard to sit through that. But if you do want to go through, you know, rewind it, fast forward it to those specific areas to check out. And of course, this is speeded up quite a bit. But of course, I'm breaking it down, me watching it and doing a voiceover over it. So I'm tack ragging. And then it's always a period of, okay, what am I going to do next? What colors am I going to shoot? What's going to be best? And this is always one of my favorite color combos. Always. Orange and golds. Orange, golds, reds. Orange and reds, and of course the silver's popping out. I mean, it's always a big hit. I don't care what. It's one of your common color combos, just like cobalt blue, oriental blue, teal, or oriental blue, cobalt blue, purple, magenta purple, lime green, green, gold. So now here I am again with the candy orange coming in. As you can see, all those colors I shot first are darkening up. You guys can really understand that 963. And like I say, when you get to see it finished, you'll see all the shade breakups, just how much that really brings it out. Here I'm coming in with some gold. Starting to really pop. Little gold right through the center. Then if there's something I don't like, I'll grab back the orange, kind of go over it. And some of the gold, sometimes I'll add a little bit of touch. If it's 80 parts, 80 milligrams of candy gold, I'll add 3 milligrams of orange to it just to make it not so yellow. Or, like what we're doing here, I'll just wing it. I'll go a couple coats over the gold, not to make it orange, but not to make it so bright yellow. Unless you really like it the way that looks, in which it might look good with certain things, like the lime green, the organic green, and gold. Now here I am coming in with a little bit of red, just a couple little coats, so it looks slightly pink. Knowing that I'm going to come back with some color over that. So I'm peeling off, as you can see, the last 3 shade in that middle. Here I'm going over a few more coats. It's all just kind of winging it until I'm satisfied with the colors. Nothing's ever set in stone. You got to think. You know, you can always play with it. You can never lighten it, though. They don't sell lightener. And of course, I blacked. Did a little black to kind of look like those patterns are going underneath that design. So here I am with those 3/16 inch. I'm going to come in to do the skid marks. I always like to use business card because it just gives a nice, perfect measurement every time. A lot of times though, I'll wing it. Like on the crosses, I'll just guess. I'll move it about 1 inch and I'll just move it. It might be a little bit off, but it's like back to that. You know, and then this, you want to shoot really dark red against the edge. You want to kind of fade it out. It'll give you that beautiful skid mark. And of course, you got to think, I'm going to untape that 16th inch in between there. And it just gives it a beautiful skid mark. Man, and skid marks, let me tell you, me personally, there's been a lot of things way in the past. This would be early 90s. Some things that you make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes end up a new idea. And, you know, that's kind of the way it is, you know, trial and error. So I remember doing on my brother JR's out in Tucson, his 66. I did those, and I didn't mean to do them, and then they came out so nice that I started doing more of them. Of course, those skid marks, I'm not trying to say I'm the innovator of those, but definitely been doing those back since the early 90s. And they're always something huge for detail. So I'm tacking it up again here. Little bit of black for the over and under 3D shading. You see I'm using a bigger gun. You could come in with the airbrush for a little bit better detail. Me, I almost always use the touch-up guns for just about everything. Like I say, I'm actually going in with a little bit of white right there, little white right there too, just to make it pop up. Now I'm shooting a little bit of red in there. Same thing here. Barely, just to get a couple coats to get it a little bit of a fire, little bit of a deeper shade when we do shoot the candy over it. Now this is where I told you to remember when we were masking this area up. That little bit of detail when it's all said and done, instead of just masking it up complete, that little red shade in there, of course, it's not going to stay red. Because now here I go back with some orange. Just adds a little bit of detail. You'll see when it's untaped. that you were going to mask it up anyway, why not utilize your masking for one extra detail? So here I'm orange around these edges too. Coming back in from the left to the right. Like I say, until I'm happy with the color, I'll kind of switch it up. I'll come back in. Another coat, another coat, another coat. I'm like, okay, I don't like it. Let's get one more coat. Now we're going to untape this. It's ready to untape. You can see that pattern goes under and under. Gives it that 3D effect. And just remember, this is the hood series. This could be a hood on a car. Just expand that on the hood on whatever car you're working on. Really want you guys to think about that. So when you're stuck trying to figure out something, and if you think, you know, I still look at pictures to these days to get my ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. I look at my own work quite a bit to get ideas. I look at other people's work. So here I'm going to come in with the black or shading. You can see how that's just making it look like those patterns are going underneath those borders, the edges. Here I'm shooting the bottom. Shooting around the whole thing with a little bit of black. Boom. Gonna untape the border. See it all, it's puzzle taping. It all just comes. You start at the beginning, you tape the last thing. The first thing taped is the last thing untaped. I'm gonna turn it so I can get some more orange on it. Enough around that border, quite a few coats till I'm happy. Taking off this 1/4 inch J-tape vinyl. I always like to use a vinyl for the border just because all the in case I do got to do razor blade cuts, but like you say, we just overlapped it. Tacking it up. Now we're going to mix up some clear. Going to do a medium dry coat. You never want to soak multicolor because on the side of a car you could sag candy down into the silver. And of course, because this is a speeded up video, there would have been a 5 to 10 to 15 minute wait time in between coats. Now as you see with the light on it, you see just those areas glowing where those whites were. Man, if you've seen it in person, look at that. You guys see that? Man, I really want to thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. All these products can be found on the website. God bless you guys. Have a great night.